Zoom service where we are going to have music and do some screen sharing. And I tell you that because this is part of the learning experience of doing services. And it just felt important today for this post-election service to be able to react in more real time than we do with our recorded services. I would say most folks are going to enjoy the service most if you watch using your speaker view instead of gallery view. Different computers have that in different places. It's not going to exactly matter, but that might be a place where you can see myself and other speakers clearly on your screen. One of the challenges we have is when the music we're going to use today is pre-recorded. Some of it was recorded yesterday and a couple different days. The sharing screen piece is a little bit awkward, and you're going to see us, the tech team, walk through that. Just like we've done all week. Patience, really important. We're going to leave the chat feature on. I do want to share with you that I will not be reading the chats as it goes through. So if you have instructions for Bojena or question for Bill, make sure to communicate that somehow to them in the chat feature. We did want to let you know we are going to record this whole service, but when we put it online later, we will be taking out the joys and sorrows so that folks can feel they can share openly here. And we are also going to have a place toward the end of the service where folks are asked to share a phrase or a sentence on how they're feeling about the election. Those two segments will not be part of the recording, but we did want to let you know that it's being recorded. And finally, if you have problems during the service, you can use the chat feature, and Bill Browning's cell phone is 703-969-7345. And he will be, if somebody texts him, he'll try to respond to that. So again, we're going to do our best, and we begin in that spirit of experimenting, of finding new and different ways to be together. So we enter the service with Spirit of Life, offered today by Philip Dutton from the Chester River congregation. And this is our first share. Did our first share. We unshared. I'm seeing mostly Bojena.
Are we done?
We're done with the Spirit of Life.
Okay.
So we come together each week to check in with each other. Sundays is implicitly a place where we ask ourselves the question, how have your last 7 days gone? It's a time that we take stock. What have I learned? How have I been changed? What are my fears? What are my hopes? We do that both at the personal level and at the community level, at the societal level. And I think we need to observe today that last Sunday, we were just past the Halloween celebrations. I know for me that meant I was picking through candy. I bought candy knowing we probably wouldn't have trick-or-treaters, but I still needed that ritual the next morning of going through and getting my favorite bits out of the leftovers. It was just a week ago that we turned our clocks back. And in just a week, we've anticipated an election, we've watched early returns, we understood there would be less than decisive results. We've watched counting processes, and we've watched scenarios turn, states flip. But I also want to remind us that our weeks, each of our weeks have included much more than just the election. We've had school and work, volunteering and exercising. We've been to the grocery stores, we've walked dogs. We have news from our family members on health situations and job situations. And we're doing that work of trying to figure out holiday plans in the year of a pandemic. So I invite us into this weekly check-in, doing it from a sanctuary where it feels familiar, because we come each week to not only ask those questions, but to ask how those questions are measuring up against our values. How have we done on inclusion? What has the week been like relative to our values of compassion and respect, of honesty and integrity? It sounds all pretty basic, but this is what we do as a faith community, is we check in with one another, on one another, and we take this journey 1 week, 1 day at a time. If you have questions about Unitarian Universalism or about either one of our congregations, please track us down through our websites, phones, and ask. We have been getting some inquiries this last week, and it's just lovely to know that people are considering how this faith tradition might be a fit in their lives. So now I'm going to light the chalice, and because we moved the scenario here, I'm going to twist my computer and face it down, trying to do the least moves I can and go over and light the chalice. So this is going to be a slightly different feat. We have the, I know the sun's probably terrible right now. Can we see the chalice, Bojana? Okay, well, we'll go with yes.
Yes.
So we now have our first hymn. Patty Rubin had recorded this a little bit ago working with Ellen, and it felt right for today. There is more love somewhere. Thank you, Bojana.
There is more
now have a time in our service. We call it Thoughts for All Ages because that's what it is. It's a different way for us all to think about the stories of the week, knowing a lot of our kids are pretty zoomed out. I asked Liz Hausberg to do Thoughts for All Ages before we had election results. And so she will now share with us a little bit about how she's processing it through helping our kids process last days and weeks. So Liz.
Good morning. Liz Hausberg, Coordinator of Religious Education for Children and Youth. And when Sue asked to talk about patience, waiting, I thought, holy cow, that's some sort of topic for this week. When I talk to kids about waiting, you know, when they're little, we use night-nights. Christmas is coming and 3 more night-nights, and then you'll be okay. But when we get older, they want results fast. And the hard thing teaching youth, especially, is about waiting and about patience and about wanting to get it right. So the interesting thing with Zoom now and online learning, that we cannot, they can do their work whenever. So they're getting things turned in at 1, 2 in the morning because they're adolescents, so they're sleeping most of the day and they're up late. And I get emails that say, I just finished my work, can you grade it? And I can't because it's 1 in the morning. So the idea of patience with online learning has been a hard road for many of our kids to deal and handle. Now, I will say the hard part also about online is I don't have the opportunity to discuss with them things like waiting for the election or waiting for results. I can only see their backgrounds if they're a Biden or a Trump fan, or if some kid mentions it. But I have to be honest, their patience right now is more around their grades and when the next test is. This election each day did not seem to become anything more for them or less. But I will say one thing I do talk to kids about in terms of anxiety as we're waiting for things, whether it is an election, whether it's a test grade, whether it's a test coming up, is 2 things. 1, breathe. Breathe in, breathe out. And the second thing I tell them is drink water, because water helps our brain, water helps us relax, and not those energy drinks that they love so much. So for patience, I'm going to say, I'm so glad it's done and our wait is over. And for my kids, just take deep breaths, because it'll all work out. It'll all work out. Thank you. Have a great rest of service. Can't wait to see every coffee hour. And back to you, Sue.
Thank you. And that was an example. I'm not sure for others. Liz, we could hear her, but she froze. And that will happen as we experiment with services. I'd like to now offer and invite everyone into a time of reflection, a time of meditation. I offer a reading, a poem by Raymond Carver. Not exactly about waiting, but sort of. It's called At Least. I want to get up early one morning before sunrise, before the birds even. I want to throw cold water on my face and be at my work table when the sky lightens and the smoke begins to rise from the chimneys of the other houses. I want to see the waves break on this rocky beach, not just hear them break as I did all night in my sleep. I want to again see ships that pass through the strait from every seafaring country in the world. Old dirty freighters just barely moving along, and the swift new cargo vessels painted every color under the sun that cut the water as they pass. I want to keep an eye out for them and for the little boat that plies the water between the ships and the pilot station near the lighthouse. I want to see them take a man off the ship and put another up on board. I want to spend the day watching this happen and reach my own conclusions. I hate to seem greedy. I have so much to be thankful for already, but I want to get up early one more morning at least and go to my place with some coffee and wait. Just wait to see what is going to happen. Spirit of life, spirit of love, we come together as faces on Zoom. We know behind each face is a soul that has been through this past week, whatever that has meant for you. Help us all, Spirit of Life, pause. Help us to hear our own voice. Help us to hear the voices of those who are our kindred spirits. Help us to hear the perspectives of those who approach the world differently than we do. In our pause, we lift our excitement, and two, we list our deep concerns. We list our struggles to understand, to know what it means to reach out. May we see deeply in these times. May we take the time to pause, to feel and see joy, to see above all the humanity in one another. Amen, and blessed be. Pause. We'll figure out our own conclusions in time. So in both of our congregations, it's done very similarly. We have a time for sharing personal joys and concerns. Chester River refers to it as acknowledgements of the heart, which I think is just one of the beautiful ways to think about this. We're going to do joys and sorrows now, and I'm going to have a patience test, Liz. We're not going to grade it, but we are not going to do joys and sorrows that are anything related to the election now. And after the sermon, we're going to do another round of sharing. So there will be a chance for anyone who wants to share their reactions to the election. But as I said, people have gone through their own weeks, their own times. And I am going to light the candles virtually and figuratively today, rather than try to move the computer quite over to where the candles were seated. So we will hear from folks, and we will imagine that candle being lit. I light the first candle today for all the ways that we have been impacted by a pandemic. Death tolls around the world have climbed. Hospitals are full. Essential workers, researchers, in so many different roles are keeping things going. Our teachers, our folks moving freight around the country, so many ways that we are finding ways to keep things going. We light our first candle, our virtual candle, for those many impacts. So we are having our Zoom service today because we just knew that we could not have enough information when we normally record on Thursdays to say anything coherent. And I think we made the right call. It's no small deal in the midst of a pandemic that our country held an election for the president and many other offices. We know that yesterday, just about 24 hours ago, the process we use in our country is somehow the news outlets are the ones in charge of projecting the outcome, and the Associated Press projected that Joe Biden will be our next president. It was another round of emotions for the week, and we're going to talk a little bit about the week in a moment. But I'm also aware that we each can only react from our own context. We're now going to try one more sharing of a clip from yesterday. And we do know that this is a little bit difficult to get up, but we're going to give it a try because I think it's really important to recognize that various communities, various folks' contexts heard the information in many ways yesterday. So for folks that haven't seen it yet, and for others to re-see it, here's the clip, fingers crossed, from Van Jones yesterday.
It's well, it's easier to be a parent this morning. It's easier to be a dad. It's easier to tell your kids character matters. It matters. Telling the truth matters. Being a good person matters. And it's easier for a whole lot of people. If you're Muslim in this country, you don't have to worry if the president doesn't want you here. If you're an immigrant, you don't have to worry if the president's going to be happier to have babies snatched away or send dreamers back for no reason. This is vindication for a lot of people who have really suffered. You know, the I can't breathe. You know, that wasn't just George Floyd. That was a lot of people that felt that they couldn't breathe. Every day you're waking up and you're getting these tweets and you just don't know, and you're going to the store and people who have been afraid to show their racism are getting nastier and nastier to you, and you're worried about your kids and you're worried about your sister. And can she just go to Walmart and get back into her car without somebody saying something to her? And you spent so much of your life energy just trying to hold it together. And this is a big deal for us just to be able to get some peace and have a chance for a reset. And the character of the country matters. And being a good man matters. You know, I just want my sons to look at this. Look at this. You know, it's easy to do it the cheap way and get away with stuff, but it comes back around. It comes back around. And this is a good day for this country. I'm sorry for the people who lost. For them, it's not a good day. But for a whole lot of people, it's a good day.
So some weeks are unique. This is the check-in sermon on a past week that has been pretty unique. If I had preached on Monday, I think I would have been able to sense some shared angst, sort of both excitement, maybe a little bit of dread. Everyone ready for Tuesday to be over. In our reading, at least by Raymond Carver, you hear that pull to just observe one more day, a desire to have some clarity of that view by the dock, a place where we wanted to draw our own conclusions. So if we had preached, oh wait a second, I screwed up something there. So that day by day has clearly been part of our week. If I had preached on Tuesday, I think most folks filled their day pretty intensely with routine, the final parts of waiting, an end in sight. And for many of us, we started watching Tuesday night in one mode, and very quickly, we knew that a contest winner was not going to be revealed. There's a sense of nervousness, maybe resignation, maybe that sense that we just wanted to enter Tuesday night, getting done with our dentist appointment, and it wasn't going to happen that way. The reality of the actuals comes in. It started coming in, and there was that sense of the 50-50 nature of our country. Maybe some tossing and turning on Tuesday night. And by Wednesday, I sensed more of a sense of fear. Maybe folks were a bit numb, afraid they didn't know their neighbors. On the Eastern Shore on Thursday, and it happened a few days this week, the weather was incredibly foggy. We could not see the horizon. It wasn't visible until about 10 a.m. And I know right now, after yesterday, it's tempting just to look and say the world's beautiful, everything's okay. But I do think we have to remember that sense of fog on Thursday. As more results come in, we've had to trust what I call razor-thin margins. Maybe you've worked over Thursday and Friday just to ignore the results. Still disheartened, maybe perplexed, staying busy. And then Saturday came. Saturday we had this projected winner, maybe a collective sigh, maybe relief. We heard the reaction of Van Jones, which was on very early yesterday after the results were announced. But I shared with a few of you as we were working through planning for the service yesterday, that for me, Saturday afternoon, I had that feeling you have when you've had a close call. When you've had an almost accident. Maybe you've had a medical scare that ended up okay. That feeling of, wow, that was close. And your stomach is in your throat for a bit of the day. You regain your footing. And I know by the time, it was true for me, I think it may be true for many folks, by the time we heard Kamala Harris and Joe Biden last night, it all seemed clear. It was just a beautiful moment of winners giving heartfelt, clear speeches. I think actually they were both amazing speeches. And that was one amazing pantsuit. It was a time to feel celebration. Stomach gone, that feeling gone for a moment. So I ask us today to hold the joy and hold that message from Van Jones, but not to lose sight of what we learned from one another, what we learned about ourselves and our neighbors in the full breadth of the last 7 days. Because close calls and the moments right after, they remind us that life is both robust and can be fragile. In moments which could have been otherwise, we learn some things. For this week, I sensed some fog lifted when we watched the systemic election processes actually working. It was powerful to see those dedicated rooms where they were counting the votes carefully, multiple observers worried about our process and future. That felt good, part of the robust piece. I think there were memes that were going around in the international circuits. The US sits on the edge of their seats. Biden's only ahead by 4 million votes. We have the mirror held up to our electoral college process. It's our process, but there's a place that's fragile, that hangs on so few votes in such states that we couldn't even imagine. I do hope also that as we think of the week, that we understand the outcome had different risks for some than for others. I know I've been incensed by bigotry and unfairness and poverty, but I have not been, and many of the congregants, pressed to the margins in quite the same way. Waiting periods are different for many. I look at Van Jones as an example of a Black parent, as someone who felt the shift of these last 4 years and times before that in ways differently than I understand. I also want to remind us, I may have to go back 8 days, but not much, that we saw a lot of ugliness. We saw a staffer from one campaign being run off the road by trucks from another. We know that that was not a decent time, and it's not a time to celebrate where others were. So I ask us, in a moment, we're going to have, as I said, a chance to share, but not to rush by what our bodies told us this week. It feels good now, and I do want to celebrate, and I also know it could have been otherwise. In the aftermath of this election, we're going to get lots of data. We're going to understand different ways that different communities and subgroups voted for one another. And I think the other place of celebration there is to look about all the work on voter registration, to look at the increased participation that we had in so many areas, people I agree with and people I don't agree with. I'm looking here at many here who wrote letters, sent texts, registered folks, gave money. The process had a different type of engagement, and I think that's one of the places to claim of something that feels good about this election. And we know some votes were still suppressed, and there's work to be done. So my sermon, the sermon title was picked weeks ago, and we take the next step. But I ask us not to quite do that yet. Picture that white suit, to picture all it means when barriers are broken. Check in with the reality. Where is your heart and your head this morning? What do you want to tell us about the story over the last week? And I'm going to invite sharing now, and I'm going to try to ask folks in the very best they can to take a moment and come up with a phrase, 2 or 3 words, maybe a sentence at the most, of something from the last 7 days, where your heart is and head are today or where they've been, that we can share as we make the story. And we'll have coffee hour for longer sharing. So I ask us to come up with that phrase.
Sue, can I interrupt for a moment?
Sure.
We've omitted a reading by Doug. And
That's the last page, Jenna, that's on page 15.
okay, and the music,
Oh, okay.
the music medley that Ellen recorded.
The music medley, we will do that while we think about our phrase. Thank you for that. Doug's reading is way at the end.
Okay, okay.
I skipped, and I think it actually fits really beautifully here to play Ellen's medley as we come up and think about our phrase.
Okay, then I will start that. Go.
Thank you. So as you think about your phrase, Ellen offers this music for this morning, and my apologies for missing that, but actually it fits well here. our spirits, I think, need some time for this week to sink in, to draw the conclusions of your own heart, because there's no one interpretation. Take our time at the docks where we're both thankful and we know we need to figure out what we do with life's close calls. Because we can get stuck in a place of fear and want to protect, or we can rush by and not learn. But in this place of pause, not just this morning, but in the weeks to come, I think we're invited also to find specifically points of gratitude and to trust in the threads of hope that we can find together. I think last evening, our president-to-be, our vice president-to-be, they offered us those types of words. So we had a week, and it ended in possibility. Doug Jurius will now do our final reading for today, and then we will have our final hymn, Let It Be. So we can just go from Doug, Bojan, and Bill directly to the final hymn.
Okay.
Doug, you're on.
Good morning. This morning's reading comes from UU Minister Reverend Teresa Soto.
Get a little closer if you can to wherever you're speaking into. That would be great.
Okay. I will try to speak loudly if that works.
Because you're cutting out. You're cutting out. Okay.
Okay, good. In this community, we hold hope close. We don't always know what comes next, but that cannot dissuade us. We don't always know just what to do, but that will not mean that we are lost in the wilderness. We rely on the certainty beneath the foundation of our values and ethics. We are the people who return to love like a North Star and to truth that we are greater together than we are alone. Our hope does not live in some glimmer of an indistinct future. Rather, we know the way to the world of which we dream. And by covenant and the movement forward of one right action and the next, we know that one day we will arrive at home.
When I find myself in times of trouble, Mother Mary comes to me, speaking words of wisdom, let it be. And in my hour of darkness, she is standing right in front of me, speaking words of wisdom, let it be. Let it be. Let it be, let it be, let it be. Whisper words of wisdom, let it be. And when the broken-hearted people living in the world agree, there will be an answer, let it be. For though they may be parted, there is still a chance that they will see. There will be an answer. Let it be. 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 There will be an answer. Let it be. 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 Whisper words of wisdom, let it be. And when the night is cloudy, there is still a light shines on me. Shine on till tomorrow, let it be. I wake up to the sound of music. Mother Mary comes to me, speaking words of wisdom. Let it be, let it be, let it be, let it be, let it be. There will be an answer. Let it be, let it be, let it be, let it be, let it be. There will be an answer. Let it be, let it be, let it be, let it be, yeah, let it be. Whisper words of wisdom, let it be.
Thank you, Ellen. Thank you for so many. I'll do gratitudes in just a moment. But I think that that's our invitation, to be paying attention, to move on carefully, thoughtfully, with love. So in a moment, I'm going to offer our closing words and extinguish the chalice. You're going to hear the sung benediction. You'll hear Philip Dutton do a final benediction. And then we're going to move into our coffee hour. We invite you to stay if you'd like, and understand some folks may not stay. That's all good. But that will be more informal sharing time. I can't quite get the gratitudes out. We're used to having gratitude slides on what it's taken to put together all of the services. But for this service, special thanks to Liz Hausberg, Ellen Grunden, Bojena for all she did, and for Patty and Philip for permission to use that recorded music, and to our co-hosts, for Bill working through tech with Bojena. The three of us were on a pretty funny call last night trying to test all this out. Lots of ideas come together, and for everyone's honest sharing in a format that feels still awkward, but real. So we extinguish our chalice today, and I will make sure to extinguish it after the service, holding the tension, the reality of the world's challenges with the hope and possibility of this week. May we leave ready to live into our highest aspirations, our authentic selves, and a readiness to do the work, to take the next step with the conviction of our values. I extinguish this chalice virtually for now. Go in peace. Go in love. Go knowing love surrounds you wherever you may go. Blessings, and thank you for being together.